All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our world premiere first episode of Game Savers. My name is Tony Morris, and I will be your host. Today, I am joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Wayne Donaldson, and I love video games.
And we are also joined by a dear friend of the show and longtime gamer.
Blake Gregory, playing games my whole life and ready to discuss some upcoming topics.
Oh, here he is. All right. So, a lot of you are probably listening for the first time. If you're listening, the week this comes out, if you're listening 5 years into the future, welcome, and we thank you for being here. Obviously, you've got myself, again, Tony, you've got Wayne, you've got Blake. Blake's going to be a rotating guest here on the show from what we understand, and we look forward to having him now and in the future as well. So what this podcast is, a lot of you have been telling me for years that I have a voice for radio and also a face for radio, which is a lot of what pushed us forward. So, with the title Game Savers, have you ever had to save your game before, Wayne or Blake?
Yeah. And when have I forgotten to save my game before?
See, when you say that, the first thing that comes to mind is losing your save game.
So in that case, you might be a game saver. Is that right? Just kidding. That's way too corny. That's not going to be what the show is about. So audience, when you guys hear the word game savers, you might think we're here to rescue games or anything like that. That's not true at all. Games definitely don't need saving anymore because of just how popular they've grown, especially during this COVID quarantine area that we're currently in. So what we're really here to do is just kind of be the idea and the memory of a game and keeping that alive through conversation, whether that's old games from 20 years ago, games that are happening right now, and games that are coming out here in the future, because we do have the next gen just around the corner, only a month away from exactly today, for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, which are just around the corner. So this is really stated to be a next-gen gaming podcast for news, reviews, previews, impressions, analyses, and roundtable discussions involving past, present, and future games. So there's a lot of ideas we've got out there for episodes coming up in the future. We think you're really going to like them, and we thank you for being here today and just sticking around. Over the next 2 weeks, we're going to have a few different episodes. The next one's going to be dedicated to recapping the entire generation we're currently in, with the Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch, and the PlayStation 4. We're going to break down our 10 favorite games and some honorable mentions as well from the last 7 or 8 years. So feel free to stick around for that. That's going to be a good time. I'm sure you're going to be surprised by all the picks we have in there, and it should be a pretty good looking group. And we'll have Justin joining us from the UK as well. With that as well, another element of this podcast, and this is something that I would hope it evolves into in the future, but I'm sure we're going to speak about this here in a minute when we talk about how we got into gaming and stuff like that before we dive into the news and everything else in this podcast. But one thing that had kind of stuck out to me was just gaming and how a community tends to form around that. I know myself growing up, I really cherished the memories of playing with my father, my brothers, the rest of my family as well, friends. And it was always a good way to have that community. And there's a lot of kids out there that don't get that opportunity. So at some point in the future, that's going to be a focus of ours. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like with the logistics and details behind it right now, if that's console giveaways to children in need or children in underprivileged areas. But that's definitely something that's, here in the near future, we plan to announce, and stay tuned for more on that. So without further ado, we've got a lot of news topics coming up and stuff like that. We'll talk a little bit about how we met, but first let's talk about how we got into gaming. I'd like to turn it over first to Wayne. Why don't you tell us how you got into gaming, Wayne?
Okay. Whenever I was young, and I'm talking really young, like 5, 6 years old, a lot of my friends were getting Nintendo, or even before that, the likes of the Atari 2600. I was never allowed those. My dad had this mindset that having something that you just plugged the cartridge into and pressed on, well, what have you learned? He just thought it was kind of mindless, and he had a very low opinion of video game consoles. But in the UK, I don't know if these hit the States, but in the UK, the ZX Spectrum was massive. It was like a home computer, but it wasn't a PC. And I got one of those because my dad knew, you can play games on these, but they won't always work. And sometimes you gotta, tinker with them, and then you're learning through that, and then you can program on them as well, which I've done a little bit of programming. So that was my introduction to games. And it was games like, this is going way back. These are so rudimentary, these games. Stuff like Horoscope Skiing, River Rescue, Jumpin' Jack. And then there was a massive series called Dizzy by 2 guys called the Oliver Twins. And And I mean, that's even something back in these days, these were video games made by two people in their bedroom, you know. The games came on like cassette. I'm sure there's people who are listening to this that don't even remember cassettes. It wasn't even part of their life. That was my jump into video games, and I absolutely loved it. I would sit for hours and hours playing these games. And as I say, they were so simple. There was nothing to them. Some of them were absolutely awful. Most of the games you wouldn't finish. It's not, you know, the way nowadays you buy Gears of War, you sit down for 8 hours and you finish the story. You didn't finish these games back then. You just battled with them, and then you tried over and over and over again. I mean, people talk about Dark Souls being difficult. I say go and have a go at Saberwolf in the ZX Spectrum, and you'll find out what difficult really is. That was me into it. First of all, that was my initial gaming experience. After that, again, same mentality from my dad. You know, he didn't like video game consoles, so he got me a PC. And this is like pre-Pentium days, like a 386.
What year was this roughly?
Now you're talking. This would have been about early 90s.
Wow.
And I got Wolfenstein 3D. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And again, it wasn't a game I finished. It's just each time I loaded it up, I'd start from the beginning and just play it for fun. It wasn't about finishing the game. It wasn't about leveling up. It wasn't about, you know, getting on a leaderboard. You just purely played the games for fun back then. And looking back on that, like, it's just a completely different way of playing games. Now, eventually he did break, and a Sega Master System came into the house with the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog on it. There was an Asterix game that I loved, and I think that was it. I think it was the only console that came into our home as a kid. My cousin would have lent me a Super Nintendo. Again, I mean, there's a million games on Super Nintendo you could talk about. And it wasn't actually until I was a good bit older, where I was working and earning money, that I bought my first console. And that was actually a Dreamcast. In saying that, I bought it for one game. I bought it for Resident Evil Code Veronica. And I bought that Dreamcast. I brought it home. I played that game for 3 days. And then I sold the Dreamcast again because I didn't care for anything else in that console. I just wanted to play Resident Evil. And then from there it went on. There was a bit of flirting with PC gaming, but the reason I wasn't so fussed on PC gaming was I always wanted the next thing. No matter what graphics card I had, I wanted the next faster one. And I don't remember if anyone remembers Voodoo graphics cards. Oh, again, yeah. This is way back. Like the Voodoo 3 was just like, oh my God, what a beast this was. And by today's standards, of course, it's nothing. But I couldn't keep up with my own desires in the world of PC gaming. I always wanted a better CPU. I always wanted more RAM. I always wanted a bigger hard drive. And it was money, money, money. And I eventually drifted away from PC gaming whenever I got a GameCube. And I loved that little box. That is just a little box of joy. The GameCube I thought it was an incredible console. Some really, really good titles on it. Played the console for ages. I admit I had this issue. I used to buy game after game after game on GameCube. And again, I wasn't finishing games.
How old were you at the time of GameCube? Sorry.
At the time of GameCube, I think I would have been late 20s.
Oh, okay. So you've got money at that point.
Yeah. I'm earning money. I'm buying all these games. I'm not finishing them. I'm not really dedicating myself to them. And then the 360 came along, and it gave me something that changed how I game. And I know people hate these, but the achievement system completely changed how I approached games. See, when you had that tracker on every game telling you your progress, it made me sit down and I played a game till I finished a game. Whenever I got my Xbox 360, it was whenever the Elite came out. I got BioShock and Gears of War, and I didn't start one of those games till I finished the other because of this achievement system. It just locked me in. Forgive the pun. And since then, I've been a massive Xbox fan. I absolutely love Xbox. Now, don't get me wrong. I buy PlayStation. I buy Switch. There's incredible games on there. I wouldn't miss them. I first and foremost consider myself a gamer and not an Xbox fan. But if I was forced into it, if someone said you have to choose one platform and that is you for life, I'd be going with the Xbox.
How about that?
So,
The
we're
Xbox.
10 minutes in it, and I've already established my allegiance.
Well, no shame. Well, Blake, how about you establish your allegiance now and tell us a little bit about how you got into gaming?
So mine started a little bit different in ways. Grew up in a nerdy household. Father loved video games. You know, already had the Atari 2600. I started out on a regular NES. I mean, Super Mario, Duck Hunt, uh, Mega Man, games along those lines. It's how I started my likes for video games a lot. And then, of course, we bought a gateway PC. A lot of people may not know what those are anymore. I don't even know if they make them, but it was huge.
I don't think they do. How could you forget that?
Right. I don't think they make them anymore, but mine was the same introduction, Wolfenstein 3D. And then when Doom came out on, was it freeware at the time where you get the demo and play like the first level? I mean, I played that over and over and over, kind of like the Wayne's extent. It wasn't about me beating the game. It was about me just in getting on and enjoying it for an hour, even if it was playing the same thing all the way through. With that being said, we came and got every console pretty much after that. I mean, we had a Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and kind of like in today's standards, they both had their own differences. Like with contracting, when Mortal Kombat came out, it was huge that Sega had blood and violence, and you can put all that stuff in there. Super Nintendo was still like the PG, and they fought each other, and there was no blood, no gore, no guts. The fatalities were different, you know. So there's always kind of been those console wars going out throughout the whole time, but that's where I started, and it evolved. Had a GameCube as well. Had a Dreamcast for House of the Dead. Fantastic. It was like the only game I wanted to play on there. And then it just kept going from there. I've been a huge PlayStation fan. 1, 2, 3, Vista, everything. 4 is what I'm currently playing on now. So as where Wayne is more of Microsoft, Xbox, I'm more, I guess if I was going to claim an allegiance, it'd be PlayStation, even though I own both of them and a Switch and, you know, gaming computer, everything else now. It's just all involved. I got big into computer gaming for a long time. Diablo 2 dropped, had me hooked forever. Imagine playing CS:GO now, but on a dial-up connection. You're playing at pings of like 350, 400, trying to no scope someone. So going through the struggles of life, I truly enjoyed the video games and where they are nowadays. Things auto-save for you. You don't have to worry about games breaking, rubbing alcohol in there because we all thought that cleaned the cartridges back in the day to get them to work. So that, I mean, that's where we are now. I'll keep it kind of short, but that's where the game began with, and been hooked ever since. Love it.
How about that? What was the first game you ever bought? Do you remember?
The first game I actually purchased was Final Fantasy Tactics on the PlayStation.
Wow.
Don't know why that was my first game. I had Final Fantasy 7. You know, it was 3 disc. You don't get just 1 disc back then. You might have a 2, 3 disc game that you have to have. And if you lose disc 2, well, you don't get to play the rest of the game. But Final Fantasy, I picked up real big on, and Tactics was for some reason the first game I purchased.
How about that? Tactics. Wow. Yeah, that's an oldie but a goodie.
Oh yeah.
I guess I can introduce myself here as a gamer and, you know, maybe go over some of those credentials. I've personally, I'll start current and then maybe work my way backwards here and then back up. Currently, I own a collection of about 2,000 physical games that stretches from games in the mid 90s all the way up until present day. So a huge collection that has absolutely no value behind it. That is just sitting in totes right now, but they're all there nonetheless. You know, really glad to have been doing that for such a long time as well. I didn't hoard them initially, but over time that definitely happened.
Just as you mentioned that, I've literally counted how many physical games I have, and it's 21.
It's a thing of the past, isn't it?
Yeah, it really
I have a
is.
handful, 5 maybe.
So with that, how I got into gaming, it was mid 90s at some point. Was still a wee child, and I know in the basement of our house we had a Sega on one of those old tube TVs, and that's just how you gamed back then with the you know, yellow, white, and red cables. I forget what those are even called. It's been so long since I've seen them. AV cables, maybe. But we were playing on those TVs with the Sega, and the first game that we had was Sonic the Hedgehog, and me and my brothers and dad would fight religiously over that. And it was just such a great thing to have. How I kind of evolved through gaming, weird story, and it was completely by accident. So I was in first grade. I still remember this. Because I was so shocked by it. I don't know if it was through disappointment or excitement, but nonetheless, I was in first grade, and a classmate had been talking about getting a PlayStation or something like that. And at the time, I thought this meant like he had this really cool Hot Wheels set. or one of those big garage car toy setups. I don't even know exactly what I was thinking, but I remember picturing something like that. So I'd asked my grandparents for a PlayStation for my birthday, expecting something like that. And when it showed up at the birthday, it was, well, as you know, a PlayStation 1, what that looks like, obviously. And I just thought, what on earth is this? And it came with, I think, Croc Legend of the Gobos at the time. I don't know if anybody remembers that game, but it came with that. I believe we played a lot of original Ghost Recon on that as well. I can't remember if that was PS1 or PS2. A lot of other games on it, but anyway, I'd completely gotten that PlayStation by accident and took off from there. From there, got into competitive PC gaming before I was even 10 years old, doing LAN parties and stuff like that for StarCraft 1, StarCraft Brood Wars and stuff like that in 98, 99. Didn't even really know how to navigate a computer. I don't think I was old enough for that just yet, but was still on there and still absolutely loved playing it. Every time I had a birthday or anything since then, my parents and grandparents both would always take us to get games for our birthday. I remember trying to schmooze them over through the ESRB rating system, because that was a thing at the time in the late 90s, early thousands. Trying to get Grand Theft Auto 3 or Vice City, things like that. And it was always nope. But they eventually broke through. They would still get me Medal of Honor, Far Cry, Turok, games like that. So was just really fortunate in that aspect. We played a lot of Halo 2 growing up on the original Xbox. We had the PS2 and the Xbox. That was a huge staple in our house as well. Mario Kart. We still throw hands over Mario Kart at my house anytime we go back to visit family. Smash Bros as well. So that's a little bit about how I got into gaming and how I've evolved. I own all the consoles and PC right now, so I can't say I'm a particular allegiance to either or, but certainly any game that comes out, if it's new and noteworthy, I'm definitely on top of it. I like to think so. That's a little bit about my gaming background. So now that we know a little bit about how all of us got into gaming, I guess, with that, we can dive into the upcoming releases. We're hot on the heels of the next gen. PS5 is coming out, as well as the Xbox Series X here in mid-November. We've been in this generation for 7-8 years now, something like that. So
2013, the last console dropped.
Yeah. Wow. So it's been a minute. And I guess we can include Nintendo Switch in current gen, even though it's kind of, off Switch and halfway in there, but because I think that released in 2017. But anyway, hot on the heels of that. So coming up soon, we've got a lot of different games. We've got Baldur's Gate 3 that just came out in early access on PC. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit that's coming out on October 16th. Age of Empires 3 on the PC on October 18th. Pikmin 3 is coming out on Nintendo Switch. We've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't even know how many Assassin's Creed games are out right now, but
55.
55.
I'm almost certain that's number 13, but don't quote me on it. It's right about there. Yeah.
So, there's been a lot of them, and we know that's coming out, I believe, on current gen and next gen on November 12th. So looking forward to that. Are either of you excited about that?
Valhalla? Yeah, absolutely. Well, yes and no. I'm currently still playing Odyssey, the DLC, the Fate of Atlantis DLC, and I've got like 4 hours of it left, so I'm so close to finishing it. Now, I think I've put 150 hours into that game, and there's no way I'm coming off the back of that. I'm going straight into another Assassin's Creed game. I need some buffer in between. So yes, I'm excited to play it. I definitely will play it. We will buy it. But I think I'll hold off before I make a start on it. There's another game you're going to mention, and that will definitely be my buffer game in between. And I don't mean that in any negative way whatsoever.
All right. So with that as well, we've got Spider-Man Morales coming out on November 12th, Need for Speed Remastered on November 13th. I'm not sure which Need for Speed they're remastering. There's so many of them at this point. I'm not sure if that was the Hot Pursuit that they're looking to remaster, or Rivals. So. Yeah. I'm not sure which Hot Pursuit either, because I believe back on the PlayStation 1 and 2 days, there was an old Hot Pursuit game. Yeah. And I'm not sure if it's a remaster of that or if it's the newer version of Hot Pursuit. So in that case, we're going to have 3 Need for Speed Hot Pursuits with the same name. So that's not confusing enough. Next up on November 19th, we've got Cyberpunk 2077 coming to us from CD Projekt Red. What a gift.
That's the one. That is the one. I mean, it just, who's not buying that? Who's got a console or a PC and isn't going to be buying that game. You know, I don't think I've seen hype for a game like this in a long time. I really don't. A lot of the big releases are often sequels, and it's just another Madden or it's just another COD or whatever. This is brand new. You know, it's going to be like pulling, you know, the cellophane wrapping off something you've never seen before. And I just cannot wait to explore Night City. I've avoided most of the trailers. I haven't even seen much about it. I'm all aboard the hype train on this one, and I cannot wait.
What about you, Blake?
I'm the same. I'm all aboard the hype train. There hasn't been a game this hyped up in a long time. It makes me nervous always when something gets hyped up so big that you don't want to be disappointed when you grab it and start playing and it's overhyped a little bit. But I mean, like Wayne said, who isn't going to grab this? I haven't watched a whole lot into it. I want to be a fresh surprise when I pick it up and start playing it. Don't want to get too involved in everything, but I think it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait.
I agree. Absolutely. I've been doing some research on this. I'm one of these where I wanted to initially avoid everything. I believe E3 this year was when I finally broke through and was like, all right, I'm just going to watch every gameplay trailer that comes out, every 40-minute session that comes around. And I've just been so blown away by, you know, one, the scale of this map, which just leaked, by the way. I haven't eyeballed it in depth, but it does look like it's just a tad smaller than The Witcher 3. Which maybe that's a good thing, because obviously with this being an urban setting, you know, maybe there's more verticality in there. So we don't know what that looks like, what buildings you can go in and out of, etc. Again, like coming off of the heels of a game like The Witcher 3, I'm sure, you know, expectations are obviously high for that. They've been working on this for a long time. It's been delayed a couple of times as well throughout the years. So again, this is something that I really think is going to be the one for next gen, hopefully for now, from what we can see.
And the great thing about it is it's a single player story with no live service. I think they said there's not going to be DLC. This is literally going to be it. It's one game. It's old school in that respect. And we're hearing from so many publishers and developers that, you know, there's no money to be made in single player games anymore. And I think this is just going to prove everyone wrong so much. I mean, there's dozens of games that prove that wrong over the past couple of years, but it's just great to see a big single player game of this magnitude. Can't wait.
Beautiful thing. Watch Dogs Legion coming up. That as well will be out around the same time as these consoles. And we've also got on the Nintendo Switch Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity on November 20th. Looking forward to that. I know myself, being a huge Dynasty Warriors fan, I'm stoked about that. Could not be more ready for that crossover. So with that as well, did we have any last words on the upcoming releases before we move over to some of the recent releases that have just come out here in the last few weeks? I know there's been a ton of games.
The other one on there that I would definitely buy is Miles Morales, because Spider-Man was fantastic, absolutely brilliant, and I just want more of that. That being said, there's a shift in how the generations sort of change over. There's a lot of talk about games where Cyberpunk's a good example. If you buy it in PS4, you buy it in Xbox, you get the next gen version upgraded. For the Spider-Man, it is so convoluted. I've read so much about it and I still don't understand what I get based on what I buy. So I've decided I will buy that, but I'm just going to buy it on PS4, and I'll play it on PS4, and I'll make do with slightly less graphical fidelity. But it's definitely what I'm going to buy. But all that sort of drama around how it's being sold, it's kind of taken a wee bit of shine off the hype for me. I think that's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that's going to come out as a standalone game as well, correct? Not just as DLC, so that's good.
Yeah, it is, but it's a full price standalone game, despite a lot of the talk being that it's going to be about half the length of the previous Spider-Man game. And then there's like ultimate editions of Spider-Man for like $70, I think. I don't even want to get into this too much because I cannot remember all the details. And every time I read about it, it just throws me. It is a minefield the way they are selling that game compared to some of the other publishers, the way they're putting games out. So as I say, it's just taking the shine off it a little bit. I won't buy it at launch. I'll buy it further down the line when it's a little bit cheaper. Should
be interesting. Recent releases. So this is really just kind of here in the last few weeks. Obviously, there has been a ton of games dropping out here on the way out of this generation. First up, we've got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remastered. oh my gosh, who played this 20 years ago?
Oh, I played it way too much 20 years ago. And picking it up again recently, I am super happy at what they have done with the game so far. Vicarious Visions did a great job with Neversoft's original game that came out, and they redone it. They upped the graphics in it. They left like most of the original soundtrack, if not all of it. So going back and all that nostalgic music you always used to listen to, when the game was playing, and it's like just been seared in your brain. It's awesome that they brought it back. Like they didn't change a whole lot, which is like what sometimes I like to see, which seems crazy in a remastered video game where they didn't overdo it and make it like a whole new game. It gives you all the original vibes, just looks a lot brighter and a lot cleaner.
Absolutely. And that soundtrack you'd mentioned, man, all of the punk tracks on there, the old school. I mean, there's just so many good tracks on there. And I know growing up as a kid, that definitely might have had an influence on my taste in music,
Right.
Without having a lot of other chances to branch that out there. But that game was something else in that aspect.
I've had so many conversations with friends, talking about how you get into music and the amount of times that those Tony Hawk's games come out, just time and time again. It was just, I think it done as much for music as it did for video games.
Absolutely. And it's crazy to see how just renowned that game is now 20 years later, because I knew it was popular back then, but to see it come out and do so well, obviously 20 years down the road, and it's just as exciting. And, obviously I'm not skateboarding or anything right now, but
me neither in my later life, but that's what got most of us into skateboarding more is when we were younger. I mean, we all went out boards. Who had the coolest trucks? You got the new bearings. I mean, Tony Hawk just did so much for everything, and it's awesome to bring it back and give the newer generation of the kids something awesome that I was able to enjoy as a kid.
Yeah, they may not know the Dark Star, the elements, and all of that of the world, but right. Hopefully they'll have the Tony Hawk games, if nothing else. Other recent releases, we had Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. That came out on a couple of consoles. So has anybody had a chance to play that? I've been holding off on it. It's in my backlog, among a couple of other games, but anybody had the chance for that yet?
No, it's been sent for me. I picked up Crash Bandicoot, was it 1 and 2 when they did the remaster of that, because I was like, that's going to be awesome. And they were pretty fun. You don't get some of that give like you used to on the older systems where they have like the ghost clip or whatever you want to call it, when you kind of make that jump, there's a little bit of forgiveness to it.
Oh yeah.
On a newer console, it's not there. If you're not hitting spot on your jumps and everything, you're dropping. So I've kind of held off on this one. I'm going to wait a little longer, but I'm eventually going to pick it up and try it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Same. With that as well, we got Star Wars Squadrons, which just came out, I believe, this week. Obviously that's a bit of an online and single player game from the Star Wars spectrum where you're flying the fighters. Wayne, I know you're excited about that one.
It's tempting me so much. I'm at a point right now where I've got a bunch of games that I kind of want to get off my list before the new consoles drop, and to throw another one into the mix. But at the same time, it looks amazing, especially in VR. I was torn about getting it on Xbox or PlayStation. I've got the PSVR headset, and I seen one comment online, and someone said it was the most magical experience he's ever had playing a video game, just sitting in a cockpit of an X-wing and looking around and all that. Oh, that is just. I want that. I have to buy it. I will buy it. But it's a matter of time. I haven't been out shopping much recently, but I know that if I walk past it in a shop, it'll end up in my shopping basket. I won't be able to resist it. Just, the idea of being in a cockpit. I've had a similar experience. Battlefront 2, I think, had a 15-minute PSVR mission. And again, just outstanding. But it was only 15 minutes. So you're kind of dropped in, and it's almost like a tech demo, and then it's over. So maybe 6, 7, 8 hours of that. Yeah, I'm all over that. It's just finding the time to get that game into the schedule, But it will happen. I will pick that up.
And speaking of being in flight and things like that, we've got Microsoft Flight Simulator, which also just recently came out. I don't think I have the power to run this thing on my measly 2080. Just from what I've seen out there, I'm afraid to even try it, to be honest. I did pick it up on Steam, but I have not installed it, and I'm not going to try to install it just for the fear that my computer might explode. But it looks absolutely amazing.
Oh, it looks awesome.
It's coming to Series X, yeah?
I don't think that's been confirmed yet. If it is, then they haven't given us a date yet. But certainly, if it does come out on launch, I'm there at day one. That just looks incredible to me.
I'm in two minds about it. I used to have a friend that played these games. I would go over to his house, and he'd just be sitting there. I'm like, well, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Well, I'm flying from London to LA in real time." I was like, "Okay, that looks fun."
So does that mean he has to fly for what is that, like a 10-hour flight?
10-hour flight, yeah. And he just sits there in front of the computer, doing nothing for the vast majority of it.
Dedicated.
I was just like, that's insane.
Absolute dedication.
This was a long time ago. This was maybe 15 years ago. I'm guessing those games have evolved, and there's maybe a bit more to do with actual tasks and things. I don't know. But that's always my go-to thought whenever someone talks about Flight Simulator.
I have to say, as someone that's been to 41 countries now, just had the chance to travel all over the world, and I believe that's how we met, Wayne, actually, was through traveling. But with that as well, I've just been absolutely blown away by these trailers and just how spot on the realism has been for these. Every time I see a trailer, like for a Barcelona, a London, something like that, it just looks.
Did you see the Japan one?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that could not be more dead on.
Pre-lockdown, Japan was our last big trip away, and whenever I seen that, I had shivers up my spine and tears pricking the back of my eyes. Oh. I just couldn't believe it. It's as if they've just mapped it out, but they have just mapped it out. I mean, they have mapped out the world and put it in a video game. That in itself is just mind-blowing.
Where's the first place you guys are going to go when that game comes out? I know personally the first place I'm going to fly is my house.
For me, it's got to be, if they haven't fixed it, did you see the building with the incorrect number of floors?
No.
So Microsoft Flight Simulator uses data off, it's not Google Maps, and I don't think it's Microsoft Maps, it's another one. It's like Street Maps or something like that. And there's all this data, and every single building in the world has a number assigned to it as to how many floors it has. So if there'll be a street and they've all got 2 floors, you've got all these little areas with the number 2 assigned to them. Someone had accidentally assigned 221 to one of these buildings. And so in the middle of, I think it's Melbourne, it's somewhere in Australia, there's just this massive thin column shooting into the air in the middle of
it looks like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai.
Yeah, except it's like a tiny little apartment that's just going straight up. If you look up the videos on YouTube, it's amazing. I hope they haven't fixed it, but I imagine they probably have. It's so funny. That would be my first place to go to.
There's also on the horizon, or I guess it's actually recently come out. Sorry, Mario 35th anniversary. Who can believe it's been 35 years? I'm not even 35 years old, but to appreciate the fact that that series has been kicking that long is absolutely incredible.
Blows me away. They say 35th anniversary when you think about how long it's actually been out. You're like, the game's 2 years older than I am. When Mario first came around into the business. I like what they did with it though. It's awesome. Like there's some improved hubs. The text and stuff, looks nice, crisp and clean. The only thing I wish Mario 64, I guess to me, I wish they would have done it more than a 720 scale on the high quality. You can't play it full screen. It's still windowed mode, where they did, 1080 for Sunshine and Galaxy. Like those look fantastic. But with 64, I don't know. It's different. I don't think you're going to see a lot of speedrunners try it either. I think they have fixed the backwards jump glitch. They'll have to try to figure out a different way how they're going to speed run it besides that. But other than that, super cool. Glad it's slightly updated. Looks a little cleaner. I just wish they would have took it to another level above.
It didn't get the love it deserves. These are 3 of the most iconic games of all time. And it feels like they just lifted the 3 games, 3 of them in a box, and went, there you go. There's your game.
Right.
And now I've said this before, don't get me wrong. I'll probably buy them at some stage and I will probably have an absolute blast playing them. But the fact that they shipped it out with so little care and attention has just made me think, I'll buy it at some stage, I guess.
So has Nintendo ever remastered a game that came out like it was, got the same treatment as like a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? Has that ever happened with Nintendo?
The Wind Waker on the Wii U was a considerable improvement over the GameCube version, definitely. trying to think of others.
I'm thinking 3DS Ocarina of Time, maybe.
I can't really think of any right now that where Nintendo's really done a whole lot of remastered anything. They
Right.
leave it classics for what it is, and that's what you got. So it's cool of them to try, but like Wayne said, I wish it would have been showing more love and care and that it deserved to drop for a full price video game.
I've seen videos online comparing the 35th anniversary collection to people running these on modified emulators, and like home bedroom programmers have done a better job than what Nintendo have with their own intellectual property. And that just, I can't understand that. I really can't. I can't help but think that it's a COVID thing. It's the world's on fire. We can't make new games. Everything's slowing down and grinding to a halt. Stick these 3 games in a box and ship them out, and we'll get some money coming in. It's disappointing. But as I say, I know when it comes to actually sitting down on my sofa and playing these games, I will love them. I know I will. But I think I could have loved them a little bit more.
Right.
That's just a shame.
So a
slip on the wrist for Nintendo there.
So with that as well, and just for the sake of time here, we're going to blow through the rest of these, but not to say they don't deserve any love, but we've got Mafia Definitive Edition as well, which just came out. Hades on the PC, and it seems like everywhere else I see a lot of love for this game. I don't know a lot about it. It's in my backlog as well, but more on that when we ever get a chance to play it. Spelunky 2, No Man's Sky recently had a huge comeback update. I've heard a lot of good things about a redemption arc for that game. Haven't had a chance to play the update yet, but hopefully that's coming soon. Marvel's Avengers just came out. Genshin Impact, which appears to be some kind of JRPG as well, has come out. And then all the sports games, Madden 21, FIFA 21, which got a vicious score from IGN. I don't know if anybody has seen that.
I haven't seen FIFA's, but Madden is terrible.
Oh, man.
Sorry, I know you're trying to move on, but EA, I mean, it's hard. I didn't buy Madden this year. This is the first time I haven't bought Madden since the first gen consoles. EA, to me, dropping the ball. The graphics, not huge improvements. I know they did a new engine with the Frost engine. Well, I think it was last year, the year before, which it felt good, but it has a lot of bugs, a lot of glitches. And the worst part is there's no good story mode. And with the little story modes they add in there to their little superstar or whatever, the graphics in the cutscene, which seems weird, but it looks like I'm watching a PlayStation 2 or 3 cutscene. Like, it's bad. It's definitely not next gen level. And I feel like EA is just trying to make a quick buck and rush it out with a lot of their titles. I wish another contract will pick up the NFL's contract on their players, where we could get back, maybe like 2K could pick it up, because they've done fantastic with their, their NBA 2K series. They love it. It's awesome. They got a better storyline. I'm hoping EA can either do something to redeem themselves or gets picked up by somebody else.
EA, if you're listening to this, please take care.
Yeah, please.
I heard that one of the reviewers got the new FIFA game, and they played it for so many hours. And their final judgment was, this is the same game. This is the same game, practically the same code that they put out last year. So what they done was they put out the same review that they put out the previous year. They just copied and pasted it as a sort of
yeah, updated rosters aren't going to cut it. We got to do something different.
That is absolutely hilarious. So with that as well, yeah, I mean, I had seen for FIFA recently, I think it was sometime this week, IGN had scored FIFA 21 at a vicious 2 out of 10. Which I have never seen a game get roasted that hard by IGN before. And I hope that's an eye-opener for EA to really start, stop recycling the same content every year with just minor changes that aren't even real changes, and roster updates. And hopefully they do something with these series real soon, because Madden, FIFA, NBA 2K21, they all deserve some more love. I would certainly like to buy them more frequently, but for the same reasons as you guys, I'm not. So with that as well, we've talked a little bit about some of the recent releases that have come out here and the upcoming releases. Obviously, again, a month away from these brand new consoles. All of us seem to be getting those in some way, shape, or form. And just recently here, a few weeks ago, on September 17th, PlayStation 5 pre-orders opened up. And shortly after that, a few days later, Xbox Series X pre-orders opened up on September 22nd. Now, I know this is probably insinuating a lot of harsh memories for gamers all over the world right now that had tried to pre-order these things and they were gone within seconds. So if you guys want to, maybe we could talk a little bit about what that experience was like, because I know for me, it was not the most pleasant experience. I will say I'm really happy I got to pre-order both. But it was not the easiest process in the world, and it definitely should not have been that difficult. And I know there's a lot of people out there that just still don't have it. I haven't seen them go back in stock anywhere yet. So with that, I guess I'll start. So September 17th, PS5 pre-orders opened up completely by mistake, right? Walmart was the first one to kind of get the ball rolling on Twitter. And saying, hey, why wait? Get it now. And the floodgates had opened up when we were all expecting it to really be the next day. And I'm sorry if I have the 16th, 17th, or 18th mixed up there. I'm not sure which one was supposed to be the initial date, but I remember September 17th somewhere in there. And that had happened. And I got online like 2 hours after that and was like, what is this? I came back home from, I think we were at dinner that night or something at a restaurant. And I thought, what on earth? I see Reddit has exploded. And I get online and I'm like, I guess I better buy this quick before it sells out. And it's gone. I am, of course, just livid because PlayStation had this whole process set up where you register your gamer tag and all these other things in advance, and you're supposed to get that exclusive email. I didn't get any of that. And it's already gone on all the major retailers. So it's 11:55 that night, 3 hours after the sales went live pretty much everywhere by surprise. And at that point, I'm just kind of defeated. And for some reason, I'm refreshing Amazon with hope because I hear people saying it hasn't gone live there yet. And people are like, maybe midnight, maybe 3 a.m, maybe these times for tomorrow. And I was just refreshing Amazon and I happened to see that it said add to cart or pre-order now, whatever it said. And I thought, oh man, I need to do this quick. So I got on there. I didn't even have time to decide which edition I was getting because I knew the digital was going to be gone like that. Because I'd heard that had limited stock. I ended up getting the full edition, the $500 edition. Was not happy about that one. I only wanted, wanted the much cheaper one, but I guess we'll settle for what we can get. And was able to secure that at 11:52 a.m. that night. But was definitely not thrilled about that process when it was sold at Walmart, Target, Best Buy, GameStop, everywhere else in the world. So what was your guys' experience like for the PS5 side of things since that came up first?
Same as yours. It was terrible for me. A buddy had texted me. He's like, yo, I got my PS5 pre-order. I was like, what? So I get on, and of course, same thing. I'm going to all the websites. Everything's sold out. I see Walmart had sent out that tweet like 30 minutes to an hour earlier and opened up the floodgates, said, why wait? Come get your pre-orders, which caused not competitors, but other stores, Best Buy, Target, GameStop, to hurry up and get something on there so they can, make sure to get their sales. And it's just an overload of just crashing, refreshing. I have a weird thing with my buddy was telling me he actually went to Best Buy to get his. And when he ordered it, no, sorry, I apologize, online. And they kicked back his credit card as it was some kind of like a theft or something. So like a purchase went through and it got sent back and he had to resubmit for another one. And so now he's kind of like, I don't know if I pre-ordered it or not anymore. So hopefully when the day comes, he can get it. I know on the second wave, it wasn't any better for me when GameStop had their second wave of pre-orders for it. It was mostly in store and some online. And so, I woke up early. I had the website on my phone, my computer, a tablet, because it was like trying to put people in queues to give them a chance so it didn't overload everything. I still couldn't get one. I struck out, and I'm hoping I can still try to snap one or release, but I'm not getting on eBay or anything and paying an overprice for I'm not paying over market. I'll just wait, unfortunately, probably.
Game Savers, if you're out there and you can hook up our dear friend Blake.
I appreciate it.
So with that, I'd be curious, Wayne, on your perspective, because you're across the pond. You're over there in Northern Ireland. What was the fiasco like there for you guys?
It was as bad.
Yeah.
It was just as bad. For me, I had no intention of buying the PS5 at launch. I will get one eventually. Not at launch. I'm in no hurry for one. But I was following this whole fiasco. There was comments going online of people freaking out. I got one. I didn't get one. I've got 3. What's going on?
Whoa.
And one of the websites I follow would be Eurogamer.net. And they had a page open. And they were constantly updating it of where stock was available and where stock was selling out. And there was a sudden change. Amazon has stock. And go over and have a nosy. and I went on Amazon, and it was there, and I clicked the buy button just to add it into my basket, and I'm sitting there going, I've got one. I've got one in my basket. And I've had friends that were texting me going, Wayne, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. I can't get one. I can't get one. I was like, try Amazon. They just got new stock. And he texted me back saying, nope, they've gone already. They've gone. And I'm like, I've got one in my basket. Do I buy this just out of spite? Just to annoy all the people who can't get one. And in the end, it didn't. You know, I couldn't throw £350 at something just to piss off my friends, you know. So I'll let it go. As I say, I'll get one maybe next spring or something. But I'm in no hurry. As I say, I've got that backlog of games, and I just don't need another console. Plus, my apartment's pretty small. I'm not sure if a PS5 would fit.
Oh,
I mean, it's a beast.
Have you seen
it
the
is
videos?
A beast.
That thing is enormous.
I watched the breakdown video, and I have a mate I would kind of wind him up. He's big into his PlayStation, like really, really big. And I was sending him photos of the guy doing the breakdown. I was like, look at the size of it. And he's like, no, that's just a small man. It's just a small man. It looks big because it's a small man. It's like, dude, the thing's huge. Just admit that it's huge.
He's trying to justify the size of this behemoth on the table. That's hilarious. So I guess, you know, with the Xbox Series X pre-orders, were either of you in on the fiasco for that? Because I know myself, I started to a little bit. Yeah. So with that, I remember that was a little bit more prepared because Microsoft had said, okay, I think it was 11 a.m. on September 22nd. They said, we're going to be live. And I was already like, hey, props Microsoft, because Sony completely dropped the ball. I got one, but I'm still upset about it. And so that had happened. And I was sitting there at 11 a.m. on September 22nd. I had 5 browsers open on 2 computers. I had Walmart, Target, Best Buy, GameStop. And those of you that are listening outside of the US, those are pretty much our big retailers here in the States. That, you know, we really pretty much have to buy consoles from because there's nowhere else to do it. Also the Microsoft store, I had that up. I forgot about that. So I had all those websites up on 2 different computers running at once. 11 a.m. hits, and I'm refreshing all of them 10 minutes before, like, just in case the floodgates open early, right? And nothing. So 11 a.m. hits. I start adding it to my cart. I think Target and Best Buy were first, just because I happen to live closer to one of those 2. And I kept putting it in the cart and refreshing it. It's 11:01, nothing. Like, it just keeps like crashing the site. And I'm like, oh, not now. Please not like this. So I go to the other websites. GameStop, it had me in a queue. It auto enrolled you in a queue, I think 10 minutes early. And it just kicked me out and was gone on both computers. And I thought, well, there goes GameStop, I guess. Okay. Next up, Amazon. The site was down. You know how Amazon in the US, Wayne, I don't know if this is the same way over there in your neck of the woods. In the US, if Amazon has a page that doesn't load, it shows you like pictures of doggos. Yeah, so cute, cuddly puppies to help you suppress that rage that you're probably feeling.
Sorry, we can't help you right now. Our site's crashed. Yeah. Here's a dog.
Here's a picture of Molly, our favorite Labrador retriever.
Right.
And so I keep getting this page, and I'm like, man, and everything is gone. And I'm just like, I'm already bummed out. You know, it's 11:05. I can already see the news on Twitter, Reddit. It's sold out. And I thought, oh, this is a bummer. But I also knew in the back of my head that Amazon hadn't even gone live yet. So I'm thinking either people bought theirs and crashed the site, or the site crashed and nobody had a chance to buy it yet. So I was going to stay hopeful for Amazon, and I did, thankfully. So props Amazon for coming in clutch for this. I kept refreshing for just about an hour. I believe just around the 1 hour mark. I had a text from a friend too that was having the same issues. A lot of us were in a group chat, and he was like, we were all like, man, we can't get it. Oh my gosh, this sucks. Again, defeated by the bots and the scalpers of the world. But I happened to refresh it, and again, there it is. Pre-order now. It's live. The page is fixed. Got it. Got the Series X. Was super fortunate. Texted my friends like immediately in that group chat, like, get it. Amazon's got it. Go. You know, treat it like a Black Friday stampede, because you may not get another chance. And all of us had happened to land on it. It was just such a miracle. But I remember the stress and anxiety of that, thinking, you know, if this gets absorbed by the scalpers of the world and we don't get this until March or June of next year, God forbid, with supply chain issues, then who knows? But yeah, we're fortunate we got both, even though that was, again, a total fiasco. Was that the same experience for both of you for the Xbox?
For the Xbox, we got up, we sat down with our laptops, because myself and my girlfriend Claire, we were both planning to buy one each. We play a lot of co-op. and we've got Xboxes and TVs side by side to do that. So we both decided we were getting the Series X day one. The weirdest thing is, see that morning of buying it, I only remember two things. Number one, actually getting the order through, and number two, just the sheer level of stress, like unbelievable levels of stress as to whether I get this console or not. And I sat there telling myself, it's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. You've loads of games to play. You've got lots of consoles. You've a Switch, a PlayStation 4, and an Xbox One. If you don't get this day one, that's fine. You know, you can get it a month or two down the line, and you've lots of games to play until then. But still, so stressed. And I don't know why. It was one of the most stressful things, more stressful than anything in work that I've had to deal with. I would say it was on par with doing my driving test. That's what it felt like.
That level of stress from years ago.
Yeah, it's just insane. I got my order through with Microsoft themselves. I was looking at different. I think I was trying to get from Amazon initially, but Amazon didn't put their stock up until I think a couple of hours later. And the 1S sat for most of the day with orders available. There didn't seem to be a great level of demand here for the 1S. Sorry, not the 1S, the Series S. I keep saying these console names aren't confusing, but I think I'm deluding myself a little bit.
So speaking of console names being confusing, I want to touch on that real quick because I'd seen a statistic out there from Amazon that Xbox One X sales were ranked up 74% on the same day as the pre-orders for the Series X. So for those of you out there that may not be, super in tune with gaming, there's two Xboxes. There's one that's been out for, 5 years, a few years, something like that, the current one. And that's the Xbox One X. The new one that's coming out later this year is the Xbox Series X. Very minimal difference in the names there. So it looks like 74% of those sales that day for the old one had skyrocketed. And I'm sure there were a lot of disappointed people out there. If we could just have a moment of silence on this podcast for those people that spent $300 for nothing.
Disappointed Christmases. Kids' mothers going out like, we got one, yeah. And then they open up on Christmas, they're like, well, we got another Xbox One X.
That's horrible. I cannot imagine just, the disappointment. I'm sure, I don't know anybody out there this has happened to, but I see a lot of people out there on the internet that had that issue, whether it be upset parents or just people that weren't paying a lot of attention because they were rushing to get their pre-orders done because of all the pressure that came with it. But nonetheless. So next up, we've got Microsoft buying Bethesda. So that was impressive. I remember it was the day before their pre-orders went live. Just to build up the hype even more, they were like, you know what? Here's the biggest gaming news of the last decade. Microsoft now owns ZeniMax Studios. Bethesda, for those of you who don't know, makes games such as Dishonored, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, so many others. And that's just such a monster RPG company. That deal was for about $7.5 billion US. To give you an idea of how much that was, that's almost twice as much as Disney paid for the rights to LucasArts with Star Wars. Which is just absolutely mind-blowing to think about video games being that huge, So yeah, thoughts on that? I mean, that's a biggie going forward. That could define a lot of things for this upcoming generation.
It's going to be crazy.
It's a weird story because you're right. I mean, it's an absolute mega bomb of a story. It's probably one of the biggest stories in video game news in a very long time. That being said, there's still so many unknowns. We still don't know what Microsoft's plan is with these games. The immediate assumption would be, okay, everything that was owned by Bethesda Publishing is now an exclusive to Xbox. That's your first initial thought. So if you want to play Skyrim, you got to buy an Xbox or a PC. You want to play Fallout, you got to buy an Xbox or a PC. I mean, that would be crushing for a lot of fans. People that have played all these games on their PlayStation. But there's a strong feeling from a lot of people that is not going to be the case. They might pick a game or two. Is it Starlight? Is that the big new RPG? Star something. Apologies for not remembering.
Yeah, there's a lot of stars out there.
They might be going with that. That'll go as their big exclusive one, but the rest of the games will go on Game Pass day one. So if you've got Game Pass, you get to play these games without paying anything extra. Whereas if you want to play them on PlayStation, the new Elder Scrolls is going to cost $60/£60. Or they could go all out and make these exclusives, and we just don't know yet. I've watched interviews with the guys from Bethesda, along with Major Nelson and Phil from Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And Bethesda keeps saying this over and over again. They want as many people to play their games as they can. They want those games to be for everyone. And that does not sit in the same court as Xbox owning all these games. So it's really interesting. I cannot wait to see how this plays out, really.
Yeah, it'll be weird seeing how it plays out. Todd Howard, Bethesda's director, has been saying, the whole time, they believe that everyone should be able to play a game no matter what device they're using. Phil Spencer, they've made the commitment on PlayStation 5 still to do Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. We'll still be going to PlayStation. But as us gamers have seen throughout years, and we kind of always puts us on edge when another company buys something this big like Bethesda. Is it all going to be on Microsoft? Will it be on your computer or will it be on your Xbox? That's the nervous thing people with Sony got to worry about. That's a lot of heavy hitters. I mean, like you said, Doom, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls. It'd be kind of disappointing if I pick up my PS5 and I haven't got my Xbox yet and I can't play those releases.
Yeah.
So with that, oh, sorry.
I'm trying to think of both the pros and the cons, the positive and the negative of this situation. And personally speaking, I love seeing Xbox and PlayStation go head to head and trying to outdo each other. I said right at the start of this podcast, if you cut me in half, there'd be an Xbox logo. I love Xbox. But there's no denying when it comes to exclusives over the past 5 years, PlayStation have been absolutely wiping the court with them. The Last of Us, Bloodborne, the Uncharted series, Horizon Zero Dawn, Detroit Become Human. I could go on for ages. In terms of exclusives, PlayStation are the kings. So I think Microsoft having Skyrim, Doom, Fallout, and Dishonored, all those games, if they went down the exclusive route, I think that might balance things out. And I think sometimes competition can be good for consumers. If Xbox is pushing harder to bring more good games to their platform, well, then will Sony open up another development studio, another 2 development studios to push even harder on the first party front?
Is Sony going to start
and get us
studios?
More, even better games?
Right.
I don't know if Sony would. I think Sony, Microsoft have that tactic of going out and just gobbling up other companies, and bringing them into the Xbox fold. I'd like to see Sony go down the other route of, we're going to create new studios from scratch and create new games. And who doesn't want fresh new games coming to their consoles,
Who doesn't want another God of War dropping?
Please. Ragnarok right around the corner.
Small preview.
So with that too, for those that may not remember, I believe when the Xbox 360 launched, an exclusive for that was something very close to what we're talking about right now, and that was Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. That was a launch title exclusive on the Xbox 360 when it came out. Now, obviously, it's everywhere, but I do remember when that had come out, they had used Elder Scrolls kind of as a hostage in a way. So I would not be surprised if, even though Elder Scrolls Skyrim is good as it is, I would not be surprised if they tried to hold Elder Scrolls 6 hostage. That would be such a console mover for them, especially with, and maybe not everybody feels this way, but I personally was kind of disappointed with Halo 5, Gears of War 5. Some of these franchises that have been around on Xbox forever are just not as high quality as they used to be, especially this generation. So, maybe that's them leveraging that in the future to move those consoles.
Yeah, I think Morrowind also was an OG Xbox exclusive.
Was it?
I think so, yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. And I always thought of that as a PC and Xbox for some reason. But yeah, that's a crazy.
Well, sorry, anytime I refer to a console exclusive, right, I think there's a little asterisk beside that says also on PC.
So with that too, and just for the sake of moving on for a time here, obviously that's huge news with Xbox and Bethesda. Have both of you seen that Steve from Minecraft? Those of you that don't know Steve, he is the main blocky character you are playing in the game. Steve from He is, and he is joining Smash Bros. Ultimate on the Nintendo. So Steve, as you guys may know, Microsoft acquired Mojang for about $2.5 billion in 2014. Steve from Minecraft is now in Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's a crossover that I don't think anybody saw coming. A lot of people have wished for it, but I did not see that coming from 100 miles away. So that's a pretty big flex by Microsoft.
It's wild. I love when they bring other characters into different video games you don't expect. I mean, with different DLCs in certain games like Monster Hunter, bringing stuff in from other video games, you can get different outfits and skins. But Steve joining Smash Brothers, I mean, that's left field. Didn't see that coming, but hopefully the hype's awesome and it plays out well for everyone. But like I said, there's still no justice for Luigi.
That's weird you said that. No justice for Waluigi. Man, the poor guy is. Will he be like? Is this a running joke that they're just gonna hold Waluigi, behind bars?
Keep the meme game up.
So Smash Brothers seems to exist outside the rules for everything else. It's like you've got Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo all competing with each other, and then you've got Smash Brothers where you've got Steve from Minecraft and Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid and all these other characters. It's almost like Smash Brothers is like the center of the video game world, and anyone can visit there on the way somewhere else.
We can all come together, but we're still going to beat the crap out of each other in that game. Right. So I wouldn't mind seeing Sony jumping in there too with, what would be some of your wish list characters to see appear in Smash Bros? I know for me, it's going to be definitely Crash Bandicoot. He's got a pretty well-defined skill set. I wouldn't mind seeing Geralt of Rivia hopping in there. May not really be his style with the jumping and, but he does have the sword play and some spells and things like that. I think would be pretty, interesting to see. Master Chief, obviously.
I think Spyro joining in could be a huge thing for Sony.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he kind of got the skill set, got the abilities. I mean, I don't know. I just like what they're doing. I like bringing everybody together in one game where you're gonna, beat up on each other. But it could be me being a PlayStation fan and Wayne being an Xbox fan. We pick, our characters and let's duke it out and settle it here.
I'm going to go with Sub-Zero and Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. Throw them into Smash Brothers and let's see them tear Kirby apart. I think that'll be good fun.
So other news as well. Call of Duty, obviously a lot happening there, and it's always happening because there's a new Call of Duty every single year. But I have to say I was really impressed this year by Modern Warfare. As somebody that, has been with COD since the very beginning. I will say there have been years where I haven't been the biggest fan or I've just completely, dropped out of it. But obviously we've got the Black Ops beta happening right now this weekend as we speak. So has anybody had the chance to get their hands on that?
It feels pretty good. I played the alpha as well. The alpha was alphas are always like that, but it was a little wonky. Mechanics kind of felt weird. Beta feeling smoother, and hopefully when they release, I hope it's what they did with Modern Warfare. I mean, I know different developer companies, but this one really brought me back into Call of Duty again. Like you had said, I fell off a couple of years. I mean, some people were big on them, but I wasn't big on the wall running, the jetpacking. It seems weird, but sometimes when you just go back to those basic elements, it's what you fall in love with. And especially then bringing Warzone, I've never been a big battle royale person. I really haven't. Warzone was fantastic for the first couple of seasons. Right now with season 6, they did a lot of cool things, but they have a lot to fix where I'm actually taking a step back from it right now. There's too many game-breaking glitches, too much balancing they need to do. Once they work that out, I think it'd be great to pick back up again, but zombies being announced is really the big thing you guys should be probably talking about.
Yeah, zombies. How about that? Wow, that I was so happy to see that that's making a comeback here for this next Black Ops Cold War. Because I don't know if you guys have had a chance to watch that trailer yet, but it looks like there's so many elements from the first one in World at War that are there. It looks like, one, there's a lot more zombies. 2, there's some smaller, closed circuit environments which we're used to, but there's also some wide open spaces. It looked like that we're not so used to having from COD Zombies. So.
It started with a weapon loadout. I mean, you get to start with a weapon loadout as a progression system. Like, that's something that's never been done. You're always there starting with a pistol, killing a couple zombies, buying some wall buys and going around. But starting with the loadout, that's going to be interesting, just having that right away from the get-go.
Absolutely. With that as well, Warzone Season 6. So they just introduced, the Metro system, obviously, to the map. Have you had a chance to play around in there? Because I know I've gone down there to use the Metro a few times, and I believe there's 5 or 6 stops all over this huge map. And it seems like every time I use it, I just get absolutely obliterated. But still nice to see you can cross over this map. For those of you that aren't familiar with Warzone in Call of Duty, it's the Battle Royale. The Battle Royale version of the game, similar to a Fortnite or a PUBG. Or an Apex, and it is just absolutely monstrous, this map. There's a ton of details. You can go inside, I believe, literally every building, and they're still adding stuff and elements to this map, like Stadium. You didn't used to be able to go in that, and that's incredible that they would do that. So props to COD this year for once. Good job, Call of Duty.
Good job.
A lot of indie jelly bean success this year for those of you that have been following this hype train with Fall Guys and Among Us. Oh my goodness, I cannot remember the last time I saw 2 indie games come out of nowhere like this and just take the world by storm. I guess we could start with Fall Guys, which season 2 just dropped a couple days ago on October 8th. Had the chance to be playing some of that, and it looks great.
Fall Guys is a beautiful story. Just this indie developer coming out from nowhere with this wholesome, fun, cartoony game where literally anyone can pick it up and play it. I really struggle to get into the likes of Call of Duty, PUBG, those sort of games, because there's just such a high difficulty curve. So most of my gaming is single player gaming. Fall Guys, I was just able to pick up and play it, and it is so much fun. And there was a few signs that the developers did not expect the success that they were getting. I think Sony had to step in and give them a few more servers to deal with the amount of people playing the game. And to me, it was a heartwarming story. It really was. I loved it. You're right. Season 2, I haven't picked it up yet. Any of you guys played season 2 yet?
I have not yet.
No,
I have. I have to say, I haven't seen the hard details on how many new maps are. I've played a few of them. I do like that there's a lot less team games in there, because it seems like every time I'm in a team game on Fall Guys, it's over. I work so hard to there's 5. For those of you that aren't familiar, it's I don't even know how to describe this game. There's nothing like
it's like a MXC. If you ever seen that, it's like an obstacle course game show. And if you fall behind, you drop out of rounds. I mean, I don't know.
There you go. Very similar to a lot of the older games. It gives me the vibes of Mario Party, Fusion Frenzy. For those of you old heads out there that remember that, but it's along those lines. And really your objective is to go from 60 people down to the last man standing winner over the course of 5 TV show style rounds. That's obstacle courses, team games, things like that. And the winners are eliminated at the end of each round, leading up to that 5th round for the winner. With the ultimate objective of, I believe, getting a crown is why you were trying to win that. But season 2 so far, a lot of cool things. It's the medieval themes. So you're getting like night costumes. I see a lot of dragons running around. I see the obstacle courses are really different and unique too. Sometimes it's an individual style thing, but you have to work as a team where you're picking up and moving boxes around, or whatever these things are, platforms, so you can all jump up that over the next obstacle. Some of you were leading the way and pushing it. Some of you were jumping on top of people's heads to get ahead, and leaving your poor friends in the dust. And there's really not a lot of things like it out there in the world. So if you haven't seen or played that game yet, please check out Fall Guys. It's wonderful. Among Us, that also is taking the world by storm. Have you guys had a chance to play that as imposter or not imposter?
Both, yes.
Not yet.
Oh man, Blake, what do you think about that?
It's super fun. Honestly, I also like watching some of the big streamers play Among Us, because the banter you get out of it is fantastic when you're playing on a PC or something, compared to the phone where the text, I mean, it's cool, but on the computer, just watching some of the big streamers play, that you get all the conversations going, and there's just, oh man, some backstabbing and just tricking people into believing it's somebody else. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's just crazy that these 2 indie games, and more coming, are just blowing up. I don't know if it's quarantine shut down, people are home trying new things, or is it these big streamers that are hopping off the games they've been playing for so long and just hopping on the hype train of these new indie games and just blowing them up just huge. But also at the same time, simplistic, but a lot of fun. I think is key with both these games right now.
Absolutely. So do you two think that either of these games would have sorry, let me rephrase that here because I'm jumbling all over the place. Do you think either of these games would have been as successful as they are if not for quarantine and COVID?
I think Fall Guys absolutely still would have been a hit.
Yeah, I agree.
Fantastic. I mean, I think that still would have been great. Among Us, I don't know so much about just due to the fact that a lot of people still, up until this year, never video chatted, did a bunch of live things. You got the older generation even knows how to video chat and talk with people that they can't see right now. So I think with quarantine, I think that helped that out a lot with people conversating a little bit more and coming out of their shell more than they normally would. But I still think Fall Guys would have been a success. I mean, it's great all around.
I think the big question with those games is, would they have found the popularity without streamers being in place?
Right, correct.
Because it was, there's a lot of hype around our big AAA games. They don't have the same sort of marketing budget. Their marketing was streamers. We've seen other people playing these games and having so much fun and having a laugh, having fun with other people while playing those games. And I think that's what people latched onto. They're like, I want to have that fun with my friends. I think that's the basis of it. And I've said before, I think that indie developers who are making these styles of games should be approaching streamers and going, "Can you play our game?" Because
absolutely.
We think that's this style of game. That is the best way to get our game in front of the audience.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, that also leads you into a potential area where you've got people playing games because they've been paid to play them, not because they're good games. So
right.
I guess there's two sides to that, but I definitely think it's the way forward. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely correct about the big streamers. I watch a lot of Warzone streamers with, like you said, big AAA titles. I mean, some of the biggest streamers playing Call of Duty right now, you have like Tim the Tatman, Nick Merckx, Clokey, Courage, and stuff like that. And then
Disrespect.
You see them all get Dr. Disrespect coming back. But when you see them get together in a different game and see how much fun they're still playing those games, I mean, like Wayne said, I think that influenced a lot of their marketing for them for free. Those small developers, they don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars to put an ad up here or placement here or an ad on TV or anything like that. But when you have streamers that are just promoting it for free for them by just playing it, it's a huge impact on people.
Absolutely. With that as well too, and I know we're running short of time here. Obviously, there's a lot of other things going on too with the Epic versus Apple Smackdown. If you guys haven't seen that, where one is suing the other is countersuing. Long story short, I think a lot of this happened when Epic started to bypass the Apple stores, cutting revenue when they were selling V-Bucks directly through Epic. And that did not sit well with Apple. So what did Apple do? They blocked Epic and said, hey, Fortnite will no longer be on the App Store. It's not going to be on Apple systems, and neither is the Unreal Engine. So take that on your way out. And there's been a lot of back and forth there. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out, because those are two absolutely monster companies that could go into being a very good or a very bad thing, I think, for the gaming community. With that as well, Ghost of Tsushima, obviously that's got some free DLC and co-op coming up here right around the corner. That was just such a fantastic release here recently, and a good swan song ending on the PS4. If you haven't had a chance to play that, check it out. Again, some new DLC coming out for that, some co-op. If you enjoyed that game, be sure to check back in on it shortly, and there should be some fun goodies sitting there. Amazon announces the Luna competition for the Google Stadia. So these are two I know of kind of the outliers of the entire gaming realm, where you think of the consoles, the PC, and now you've got these streaming platforms for gaming. So a little bit about that, I guess. Wayne, you're pretty familiar with the Amazon Luna and Google Stadia situation.
Yeah. I mean, I think Amazon could pull this off. I think Stadia is a dead duck, and I'll explain why I think that. I think you need an easy in for these new technologies. Stadia came out, and initially they showed us it, and they said all you need is a controller and a browser anywhere in the world on any device, and you can play Stadia, and everyone's jaw dropped. And then the stories came out where no, you have to buy this Chromecast, and you need to have a subscription. And once you have your subscription, then you need to buy games on top of that. Well, there's a few free ones, but and the whole thing just fell apart. The business model's wrong. It's not going to get people through the door initially. Amazon Luna, they have existing services in place, i.e. Amazon Prime. And if they somehow rolled this into Amazon Prime at a really inviting price, I think that could get people through the door. And it's bunny hopping on the top of a service that already exists, exactly the way Xbox is doing it. Xbox is doing it with xCloud, where it gets thrown into Game Pass Ultimate. So if you've got Game Pass Ultimate, you're already paying for all those games in your Xbox Live, and then all of a sudden you're told, here's this cloud streaming service. Why not have a go on it on your Android phone when you're on the bus or lying in bed or sitting on the toilet or whatever it is you're doing? And again, that's an easy in. You don't have to sort of walk away from one platform and throw all your eggs into a single basket. So I think Amazon Luna, it could work. Amazon Web Services, anyone that works in the IT industry knows that they've got exceptionally good cloud services. I suppose Google do too, but Google, I think they just killed Stadia with a poor business model. And as I say, I think Luna could pull it off. I really do. With the right marketing, the right games, and just making it affordable and making it an actual Netflix style model where you pay £10, $10 a month and you get access to 100 games. Not this pay for your money and then pay $60 on top of that for another game. That just doesn't work, and it'll never work.
Absolutely. So, Blake, how has the technical standpoint of things been from your end as far as streaming services with games and things like that?
Personally speaking, sorry, go ahead, Blake.
No, I was gonna say I haven't had the best experience so far. Even with strong, stable internet connections, being hardwired from the modem into the computer, I still feel like there's a slight input delay that needs to be worked on. I think it's a fantastic thing for someone that can't afford an expensive gaming PC. Someone that has something that's small, maybe an old graphics card, not the best processor, but as long as they can have a strong, solid internet connection to play one of their favorite AAA titles, I think it's great. The same point as Wade, though, with Stadia, you're paying for a membership and then paying full price for games. It's just crazy to me. I think it's great. I tried GeForce Now. I think that's pretty cool. It just kind of incorporates with the video games you already own, but then you're streaming off of what they have set up back at their hub, I guess you would say. I think it could be great. I think it just has work to go. I mean, I think it has a long way still.
It'll be interesting to see how Sony and Microsoft evolve on that in the future, as far as competing for streaming services and things like that. We'll see. A little bit of other news here as well. Rocket League has recently gone free to play. If you're a big fan of Rocket League, be sure to check in on that. Again, that community is just absolutely booming right now, and it has been for a while. But really, with that game going from $20 all the way down to $0 with Epic, that's something we're checking out. So feel free to check out Rocket League. EA is rolling into Game Pass as well, coming up here in November. That could be a big game changer too, so keep an eye out on that. If you have the EA subscription service, that'll now be a part of Game Pass, or vice versa. Sorry if I got that backwards, but that should be interesting to see as well. Outside of that as well, Left 4 Dead 2 recently had a 10-year anniversary update. This is kind of an interesting story here. That's a new campaign that was kind of fan generated. It was taken by Valve, and they were fortunate enough on the 10-year anniversary of Left 4 Dead 2 to put out this update, where you get a brand new campaign for free. Which, if you're familiar with Left 4 Dead, this update is absolutely excellent. It gives you so many death toll vibes from the original Left 4 Dead. Just an outstanding update. So thank you, Valve, for that. With that as well, are there any other topics we want to touch on here before we take it home, gentlemen?
I think I'm okay with today's session. It feels good. I think we covered a lot, and we got plenty more to go through coming up soon.
Yeah, Sam. Yeah.
Absolutely. Excellent. So that should wrap it up for today's first episode of the Game Savers podcast. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us on this first episode. We hope you take a moment to like, subscribe, leave a comment below, leave a review. All of those things help us a ton. Again, that is to like, subscribe, leave a comment somewhere, and leave a review. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/GameSavers channel, youtube.com/GameSavers channel, twitter.com/GameSavers channel. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere else you listen to podcasts. You're going to find us out there. Again, this is the first episode, but again, episode 2 is coming up next week. That should be an interesting one as we break down our top 10 favorite games of this generation. Should be exciting. There's 7 or 8 years of content there, and we're going to try to squeeze that all down to 10 games along with some honorable mentions. That's going to be a battle royale in itself, but I think that's going to be really exciting to go through. After that, we've got the Halloween Spooky Time edition coming up, where we talk about some horror games and some of your favorites over the years there, from all over the place, from the PlayStation 1 Resident Evils all the way up to the latest and greatest Resident Evil 7 and other episodes as well, or other games, sorry. But outside of that, that's all we've got for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment below, leave a review, and don't forget to save your game. Thank you.